The film starts when Chelsea receives a call from her best friend Mia, who starts bragging about how she finally hooked up with a guy named Dylan from her class. Having never been in a relationship, Chelsea is jealous and doesn't pay much attention to Mia's words. Instead, she gets ready for school and goes downstairs to ask her mom if she can drop her off. Her mom is working and she says that Chelsea has to go to school with her older sister Christina, which annoys her since she isn't a big fan of her sister. Before they leave, Christina teases her about the guy who just sent her a message on social media, and when they go to school, Chelsea receives some more texts from him. She ignores them and goes up to Mia, who's making plans to watch some movies at Dylan's place that evening. She even asks Chelsea to join her since Dylan's friend Seth will also be there and Chelsea might finally find a boyfriend. Chelsea isn't so stoked about this idea, but she accompanies her friend to Dylan's place nonetheless. They're watching a movie when Mia goes up to Dylan's room to have some fun, leaving Chelsea behind with Seth, who's clearly interested in her. However, when he tries to get intimate with her, Chelsea gets scared and leaves. The next day, Mia asks her about it, and Chelsea says she couldn't really hook up with someone she doesn't know well. After Dylan joins them, Chelsea finally decides to reply to the guy who's been texting her, and he says that his name is Brad. Chelsea is venting to him about Mia's selfishness when a teacher confiscates her phone, and as a result, Chelsea's mom must come to the school that afternoon to pick it up. She's really pissed and takes away Chelsea's phone for a month, which means she has no way to pass the time. Luckily, Mia secretly brings her a new phone, but instead of thanking her, Chelsea gets mad at her for making more plans with Dylan. After a little argument, Mia decides to leave her friend alone, but Chelsea isn't too worried about it because she's having fun talking to Brad. She tells him that she's 17 years old and he claims to be the same age. In her social media profile, Chelsea lied about being a cheerleader, and when Brad asks about it, she has no choice but to go into Christina's room and put on her cheerleading costume to take some pictures. After she sends those pictures to Brad, he gets really interested in her and even starts calling her. 3 weeks go by, and now Chelsea is talking to Brad pretty much all the time. They're even thinking about meeting up. Since they don't want their families to know about their relationship, Brad suggests they see each other at a Halloween party outside of town. Chelsea likes the idea, so on Halloween evening, she lies to her mother that she's gonna stay home. After her mom leaves for work, Christina helps her put on some makeup, and later that night, Chelsea finally takes a bus to get to this party dressed as a zombie cheerleader. She hasn't met Brad before, and he gives her a thumbs up when he shows up dressed as a zombie quarterback. However, he seems nice and even offers her some drinks. Chelsea is having a good time, but that doesn't last long as she starts feeling dizzy the moment she finishes her drink. She can't even walk, and Brad helps her get to his car while people make fun of her for getting so drunk. No one notices as Brad puts her in the back seat and ties up her hands. He then proceeds to smash her phone and drive out of there. After a while, Chelsea finally comes back to her senses and finds herself in what looks like a basement. She is chained to a wooden pole and is really scared. Pretty soon, Brad comes there and frees her hands and even brings her some food. Chelsea is begging him to let her go while he's telling her to calm down. When he calls her Sadie, Chelsea tries to correct him, but he just slaps her in the face and tells her that from now on her name is Sadie. He then leaves the basement after throwing away her food. After a few hours, he visits her once again and makes it clear that she will have to behave or she will not get any food or water. But even after Chelsea promises to be good, he throws the food onto the ground and she has to wipe the dirt from it before eating it. The next time she wakes up, there's another girl in the room, and she's also wearing a cheerleader uniform. Her name is Megan, but she's also calling herself Sadie. She removes Chelsea's shackles, and Chelsea uses this opportunity to run out of the basement. But after getting to the main floor, she realizes that all the windows have been boarded up and the door has multiple locks on it. Eventually, Megan catches up to her and tells her to do as she's told or she will get punished. She then asks Chelsea to clean the carpet with a broom, and this is when Chelsea notices Brad working on his computers. However, before she can talk to him, Megan introduces her to Heather, who is the third Sadie in that house. Heather seems much nicer than Megan and tells Chelsea to calm down. After she leaves, Megan forcefully makes Chelsea strip and get into the bathtub. After drying Chelsea's hair, she tells her to bleach them. And while Chelsea is changing her hair color, Brad is using his helmet-mounted cameras to record himself as he waves around a knife. Later that afternoon, Chelsea is brushing her teeth when she hears someone moaning in the next room. She opens the door to find a girl named Tina who's badly injured. While Chelsea is trying to help her, Brad leaves his room with a knife in his hand. This is when he gets a flashback of the time he saw his foster sister Sadie naked and she made fun of him. Annoyed by this memory, he goes downstairs and locks the knife inside a drawer. He then forces himself on Heather, who's trying to bake a cake for him. Later on, when Heather joins Chelsea in her room, she says that she just fell and hurt herself. Chelsea tells her that they need to take Tina to the hospital, but Heather says they cannot leave and she shouldn't even talk about it. She then puts some makeup on Chelsea's face and tells her not to cry since they will get a chance to go outside before dinner. This really excites Chelsea, but she soon learns that Brad lets them use his VR gear to experience the outside world. After this session ends, Heather advises Chelsea to act normal at dinner. So Chelsea tries to eat her food in silence, but Brad gets mad at her for not having any manners. He even tells her to forget about her family or she will be locked in the basement once again. After finishing dinner, Chelsea learns that Heather is finally getting out of that place. She says that Brad is letting her go since she has become perfect. After she leaves with Brad, Chelsea brings some leftover food to Tina, who doesn't look too good. While the two of them are talking, Brad tells Heather that she has to shoot one last video for him in the basement. However, before entering the basement, he gets another flashback where his foster mom slaps him for not being perfect. After composing himself, Brad goes into the basement with Heather and asks her to face the wall. He then puts on his helmet and grabs the knife, which really scares her. He says he's gonna kill her since he got bullied his whole life because of her. Heather tries to tell him that she's not his sister, but this is when he stabs her. She tries to run away and fight back, but he overpowers her, and after stabbing her multiple times, he slices her throat. After fulfilling his sick fantasy, he goes to Chelsea's room and rests his head on her stomach. Chelsea is extremely scared, but she is saved when Megan calls Brad and he has to leave. The next morning, Megan talks to Chelsea through a hole in the wall and tells her to stay away from Brad since she loves him. Chelsea is shocked to learn that Megan doesn't even want to leave that place and is okay with Brad hurting her. In fact, she is jealous of Chelsea. So when Brad gets mad at her for using up all the ketchup, Megan laughs at her. That night, Tina tells Chelsea that she tried to run away because she got pregnant with Brad's child. However, Megan snitched on her and she got caught. Brad beat her up so bad that she even lost the child. Chelsea really feels bad for her and tries to clean the wound on her leg, but it's badly infected, and Tina begs Chelsea to bring her some painkillers so she can at least die in peace. The next morning, Chelsea is cleaning the living room when she comes across Sadie's picture, and Brad gets mad at her for even touching it. In the afternoon, she's in her room when she hears Tina calling for her. She goes to her room and Tina tells her that Brad is mowing his lawn so she can go to his room and steal the painkillers for her. She even tells Chelsea how she can open the lock to her door. After following her instructions, Chelsea manages to get out and she goes to Brad's room and steals a bunch of pills before putting them inside a shower cap. After leaving his room, she's about to go back to Tina's room when she gets an urge to check Brad's computer. So she goes to that room and there she finds Heather's purse and necklace. She tries to log into Brad's computer, but it has a password and she can also hear Brad turning off the lawnmower. Immediately, Chelsea tries to clear her tracks on the carpet, but she drops the pills. She's picking them up as Brad locks up the door and comes up the stairs. She barely manages to get into Tina's room without getting caught. But while trying to lock the door, she makes some noise and Brad hears it. He opens the lock and enters Tina's room while Chelsea hides inside the bathroom. Brad is fed up with Tina and he's trying to smother her with a pillow when Chelsea begs him to stop. She asks him to let her do it, which surprises Brad. After he agrees, Chelsea goes up to Tina, who says she's ready to die. Chelsea then suffocates her with a pillow, and after Tina dies, she starts shaking. While she's panicking, Brad is extremely impressed with her and takes her to his computer room. He shows her the footage of Heather's brutal death, which clearly disturbs Chelsea, but she pretends to be excited. By now, Brad is really happy with her and tells her that he wants to take out Megan next. He even wants Chelsea to help him in this process, and this is when Chelsea realizes that Brad is getting ready to kill Megan right now. She decides to distract him by getting intimate with him, and he almost starts crying after she calls him perfect. After their intimate session, Brad brings her back to her room and leaves her after saying goodnight. While he's over the moon, Chelsea is traumatized by the events of that day. She's lost all hope by this point and decides to end her life by ingesting all of those pills. Luckily, she starts puking, and this is how she survives the night. The next morning, she's getting ready when she hears Megan playing guitar in her room and singing romantic songs. The two of them join Brad for breakfast, where he's trying to flirt with Chelsea, which makes Megan really jealous. When Chelsea goes to put away the dishes, Megan pushes her, which makes Brad mad. Chelsea takes Megan to her room to show her Tina's dead body before explaining how Brad has already killed Heather and he is going to do the same things to both of them as well. However, even after seeing the dead body, Megan doesn't believe her because she's madly in love with Brad. She runs to him and snitches on Chelsea. After listening to her claims, Brad gets really angry at Chelsea and locks her in her room. But Chelsea doesn't back down. Instead, she tries to convince Megan to help her stop Brad. She even escapes from her room and opens up the door to Megan's room to show her more evidence. She takes Megan to the computer room and shows her the VR footage of Heather's death. Megan is freaking out when Brad gets there and takes her back to her room. He then ties up Chelsea's hands and drags her to the basement while Megan listens to her pleas for help. She finally decides to do something and starts punching a hole through the wall to get out. Meanwhile, inside the basement, Brad tells Chelsea that she broke his heart by pretending to be interested in his sick fantasies. When he puts on his helmet to record Chelsea's fate, he gets another flashback. He remembers the time he showed his mother's dead body to Sadie and expressed his desire to be with her. But instead of becoming his slave, Sadie took her own life in front of his eyes, which left him heartbroken. While he is thinking about his twisted past, Megan somehow manages to open the drawer where Brad stores his knives. Meanwhile, in the basement, Brad finally comes back to his senses and starts hitting Chelsea. Megan tries to stab him, but he survives and takes her hostage. He tells Chelsea to drop the knife, and she does so to save Megan's life. She tries to hit Brad, but unfortunately he is stronger than her and pins her down. He's trying to strangle her when Megan finally stabs him in the back. While he is in pain, Chelsea and Megan start beating him up, and after kicking him around for a while, they grab his keys and get out of the basement. They are nervously trying to open up all the locks on the front door, but to their absolute horror, Brad gets there. He grabs Megan by the hair and starts choking her when Chelsea picks up his helmet and hits him in the head with it. She then proceeds to smash his head again and again until he finally passes out. The girls then open the door and run onto the street where people are horrified after hearing their story. Chelsea borrows someone's phone and calls her family while Megan calls 911. A few days after her nightmare ended, Chelsea is sitting in the office of a psychiatrist who's trying to help her get over these traumatic events. He tells her that even though what she went through was terrifying, Brad is going through something even worse right now. And he's right, because Brad, who's now locked inside a mental asylum, gets visions where his sister Sadie is coming after him with a knife, and he can do nothing but scream behind closed doors for the rest of his life. If you enjoyed that recap, I got a good feeling you'll enjoy this one too. Click on the video on your screen for more.